Team Fortress 2, one of the most popular games on Steam, sustains an incredibly active and dedicated community despite its age being well over a decade old. It features an incredible in-game economy with its many items you can obtain by playing the game and unboxing crates and cases, which have the rare opportunity for lucky players to obtain what is known as an unusual. These unusuals have an incredibly low chance of being unboxed, being at a minuscule less than 1% chance. The many different and unique particle effects they feature make these unusuals stand out from the rest of the crowd and are an immediate sign of wealth within the TF2 community's economy. Every year, around October, the game features a Halloween-related event called Scream Fortress, which adds brand new cosmetics into the game for both hats and weapon war paints, which can be obtained via the yearly events and newly added crates and cases. But these new cosmetics aren't the only special thing about these virtual loot boxes. They also include the chance to obtain a limited time unusual effect if you're lucky enough to obtain an unusual from your unboxings. Needless to say, Team Fortress 2 as a whole remains strong due to the game's additions to its own economy, helping to perpetuate the in-game trading community. However, there will always be those who seek to turn out a profit in ways that are less than reputable. Every community has a dark side, and the TF2 Trading Community is no different. I'm OmniOmen, and this is the part 2 to my last video, in which I talked about how I made over $1,000 opening TF2 crates. That video was actually a segue into the topic of TF2 Trading's dark side, and in this video, I'm going to be going in depth into a part of that dark side from my own point of view and personal experience, where greedy individuals attempt to manipulate and overinflate the prices of certain hats in order to turn a profit by preying upon unsuspecting innocents who don't know any better. As a quick disclaimer, this video is not going to be exposing any specific individuals, and is instead meant to act as an informative video to help protect innocent people from getting dragged into these sorts of situations, and to better inform people about how items are supposed to be fairly and properly priced, so people don't get scammed out of their hard-earned keys or cash. To give a recap on the previous video, I opened a bunch of the new Scream Fortress crates and cases and got my first ever 2 unusuals. A newly released unusual Demoman Taunt and a Forever and Forever Starlight Sorcerer. As I previously mentioned in the last video, I quit TF2 for a few years until recently, where I had finally returned to the game and got more lucky than I could have ever even imagined. Me ending up unboxing the unusual Forever and Forever Starlight Sorcerer, I eventually saw the prices it was being listed for on backpack.tf. As someone who wasn't as familiar with the game as I once was, and someone who never really had to care much about the trading community since I never really had anything valuable to trade until now, I mistakenly thought that 500 keys was the go-to price for this unusual hat, thus celebrating a little too early. Well, as it turns out, these prices weren't going off of community demand, it was the very opposite in fact. A group formed by an individual, who for the purpose of this video will remain anonymous, was actually the one behind every single individual on backpack.tf who was listing the hat for 500 keys. This individual had been tracking the Forever and Forever Starlight Sorcerer, keeping a lookout for anyone who ended up unboxing one of these unusual hats. He had created a Steam group where he would individually add every person who had this hat with the goal of artificially pricing this hat at a whopping 500 keys. This wasn't in order to sell the hat for that much, but rather with the goal to inflate the price to make it easier to sell around for 250 to 300 keys. I myself was one of the people he approached by sending me a friend request and commenting on my Steam profile with the following message: added to discuss unusual pricing. Me, not knowing any better and being more than a noob when it comes to the trading community, me never having owned an unusual or any sort of valuable items before, went ahead and added him back. When I first entered the group, there was quite a few people there who all had the hat, and the general consensus there was all to sell the hat at 500 keys in order to turn a bigger profit. Being uninformed up to that point about the proper process of pricing unusuals, I didn't think anything wrong. Boy, was I wrong. As the Scream Fortress event ensued and more people unboxed the Forever and Forever Sorcerer, more people were being added to the group. There were even discussions about people who had the hat, and if they weren't in the group already and didn't wish to join the group the first time they were approached about it, other members were told to add them and pressure them to join. I remained somewhat out of touch with the rest of the group, leaving my notifications off and not reading many of the messages that were posted within. But I thought that because everyone agreed that 500 keys was the price they should all sell it at, maybe I should too. Thankfully, however, my hat didn't become tradable until after I got better informed about some of the rules and regulations on backpack.tf, as well as how pricing unusuals actually works. This group and its creator ended up being exposed by an unnamed individual on backpack.tf who was one of the many people pressured to join this group for the shady behavior happening. And in the post they had shared the full chat log and some key screenshots that showed outright incriminating proof that this group's goal was far less than reputable. In these screenshots, a few of the people within the group actually outright referred to what they were doing as racketeering, which is a term for fraudulent and dishonest business dealings, and even joked about how this was illegal. I hadn't personally seen these messages myself until after the group was exposed, and once I saw those, I realized that I may have gotten dragged into something that was far more than I had bargained for. Afterwards, I actually got in contact with the person who exposed this group on backpack.tf, kudos to them, for their attempts at price manipulation and general misrepresentation of its price, and asked to be better educated by them on how unusuals get fairly and properly priced. They wish to remain anonymous, so out of respect for their wishes, I won't be mentioning their name in this video. I wanted to share what they told me with the rest of the TF2 community who might not be well informed about trading in TF2 like myself, so anyone else out there like me can stay safe and avoid these types of shady groups. In a general sense, pricing an unusual hat all comes down to supply and demand. What determines how much people are willing to pay for an unusual hat depends on three main things. 1. Is it an all-class hat? 2. Is the hat clean, or more simply, is it a good-looking hat? And finally, number 3. Is the unusual effect good? These factors are how the TF2 trading community as a whole determine how much a hat is worth. Nobody wants to buy a hat for 500 keys, and quite simply, nobody's gonna buy it for 500 keys. Offers and actual trades and purchases are what help determine the price of an unusual, not a group who suddenly decides that 500 keys is what everyone should be selling it. As I said, it comes down to supply and demand. I was informed that on backpack.tf, fixing a price of a hat in this manner falls under the category of price manipulation, which is not allowed on the platform. While price manipulation usually applies to actually pricing unusuals, when it comes to a group of people selling it for an overinflated price, that falls under general misrepresentation, which either way is not allowed. I learned quite a bit from this whole fiasco, and the person who exposed this group deserves some major credit for being the one to help teach me better about what is and what is not allowed, so I can not only improve my own lacking knowledge, but to also share said knowledge with you all here on YouTube. I almost made the mistake of going along with it as someone who didn't know any better, and I don't want anyone else to make that same mistake. There are always going to be people who don't know better, people who aren't as knowledgeable about these things, and this group's behavior can happen all the time within the TF2 trading community. This just so happens to be one of the more overt examples of price manipulation within it. Some pretty crazy stuff for someone who only just started playing TF2 after 5 years to get dragged into. So, as my advice to you all, which comes from the more experienced veterans of the TF2 trading community, if someone tries to get you to fix a price for an item just like how this group was trying to do to me and many others, don't get dragged into it. Instead, do the community a favor and go to their backpack.tf profile and give them a negative trust rating with a screenshot of proof of them attempting to fix the price of an item. It'll help keep other members of the community safe and, more importantly, informed. After all, information and knowledge between right and wrong is more valuable than any virtual hat. And when it comes to wanting to price a hat for sale on backpack.tf, don't forget to take into account the supply and demand of the community. If nobody wants to buy it for the price you're selling it at, don't try to get everyone else who owns that same hat to sell it for that price too. It's ridiculous and a clear-cut violation of the rules there. What you should do in a situation where nobody wants to buy the hat at the price you're selling it for after a while is to lower the price of it until someone takes interest and is willing to buy it. That's why it's always important to read rules on platforms like backpack.tf, so you can educate yourself and make sure you don't end up getting in trouble for being a contributing part of a situation like this. it's something I myself will be making sure to do more often and brush up on these things if it's been a while since I've done so. With all of that being said, I hope you all enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you all learned some things today from it. I know I sure did. That's going to conclude the story of my two-part video on how I thought I made over $1,000 opening Team Fortress 2 crates, and soon after learned about the dark side of TF2 trading and the price manipulation and racketeering that can happen behind the scenes. Please take care of yourselves, Oni Gang. I'll be seeing you all in the next video, so till then, don't forget to stay wild.